everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to draw from imagination. Oscar, in my comments in my last video, brought up something that I hadn't thought about in a while, and I feel like his question really kind of struck a chord with me. And he talked about not being able to draw from imagination and only being able to draw from reference, and that when he tries to draw from imagination, sometimes he hits a roadblock and he gets unmotivated and he stops drawing. And I want to say that's something that happened to me when I was younger. And I didn't get over that for a long time. It was definitely a lull in how much I drew because I just didn't feel like I wasn't getting, the results that I see on the internet and from artists that I follow and things like that, especially from drawing from imagination. Now, when I drew from reference, I could make some realistic looking stuff and I was happy with that. But anytime I tried to just draw something from my mind, I always kind of fell short and it was discouraging. So here's some things that I feel like helped me get over that first hurdle. And it is a big hurdle. It's kind of like golf. Golf, when you first try golf, it's really hard and it's not very much fun. And drawing from imagination is really similar, especially if you don't learn like the fundamentals really well. And it's something that actually takes a good amount of time before you really start reaping the rewards of it. So first thing I want to kind of talk about is, seeing shapes, seeing structure in things, is, I think, the first key to drawing from imagination. I'm just gonna draw some simple shapes for a body right here. So I'm gonna draw an oval, and you guys have seen this like a million times. The torso, and then I'm gonna try and keep these shapes real simple. Even though if I were doing this for real, I wouldn't. I would draw shapes that were more anatomically correct, like right off the bat, if that makes sense. But that's because I've been doing it so long. And this is something, one big eye-opening thing for me on this is my daughter. She has, from the earliest time of her starting to draw, she has been doing this. And that's why I always say she's going to be twice the artist I was, because I felt like I skipped this stage, this simple fundamental stage of learning form, learning structure, and not getting ahead of yourself on wanting to make like perfect drawings, right? So this right here is something, when you're first starting to draw from imagination, you need to nail this, just this right here. All the other stuff that piles up on top of this, all the detail, all the things, that's reference stuff that you'll grow as you practice. How to draw an ear, how to draw the face you like, how to draw a ton of different faces, how to draw expressions, all those things, and outfits, all those things that you put onto this guy later, those are all the things you learn from reference. And those are things I'm still learning. But this right here is what you need to be doing all the time. And you need to be doing these like in all kinds of different poses, and you need to see the shapes of it. So like you want a more dynamic pose, you just throw some weird shapes, you get the torso down, like you do your center line for how the body's maybe moving. You got this coming out right here, that's another thigh, and right there, arm coming across here, head right here, and understanding like angles of the form that you're drawing as well. These are all things that start to add up. You get more complex with, your forms, and you can draw anything as soon as you can get these simple shapes down. Because like I said, it's just adding skins to this stuff that is what's going to make you able to draw kind of like anything in your mind. And doing this, I've mentioned this a million times on staying loose, drawing quickly in stages like this, and practicing this way. And I want to say, I feel like for me, when I was younger, I was more concerned with, and I remember drawing the same face angle like over and over. It was like a 3/4 angle, and I would never draw it like this. So now if I'm drawing a head, I would draw it like just a simple oval, and I would start with something like this. This is what I do now, right? I get my ear placement, maybe my eyes, like a nose in there. But when I was younger, I would draw this like this. Super deliberate. I would look at the outline of the object of whatever like comic book artist I was following at the time. And this is how I would draw. And I would try and swoop the nose because I see that line right there. I'd do an eye, and I got, you know, I could do this. And I'd do this. I draw the outline. I was focused so much on the outline and what I was seeing in the reference, and getting those outlines perfect and drawing like that. And that was a huge detriment to drawing from imagination. I wasn't focused on the actual form of things. I was focusing on the lines, like the lines that defined the object, instead of the form that isn't so apparent, if that makes sense. How do you get to this stage where you can draw anything that you can imagine in your head, right? How do you get so good at understanding the form of things to where you can just draw some circles and, you know, turn that into something really cool, like a monster, or, you know, a human or something like that? Like, how do you go from drawing like this to seeing the shape of things? Well, I think reference is a big part of that. So in this video, I'm not telling you like give up on reference. In fact, the opposite of it. It's just what you're referencing. So you want to, as I did when I was younger, you want these perfectly beautiful drawings when you're done. And that's not really good practice. If I'm referencing something and I'm practicing, I want to look at the thing I'm referencing, and I want to really study the shape of it. So if I'm looking at a person, like with this drawing right here, you know, understand, like if this is a reference. In fact, let's do this. I'm gonna pull up my sketchbook here, and I'll just go to one of these drawings. So this is a drawing that I drew from imagination, right? So all of this is no reference, zero reference, but I'm going to use this as a reference right here. So I'm going to kind of look at this drawing and look at her pose, and I'm going to just kind of see like the shapes of it all. Like I'll look at her head, and this is what I would do if I were looking at a photograph or another person's artwork and I really like the pose. I'd look at all the things that person did, but in a very simple way. Like I'd try and figure out how they did the arm foreshortened like that, but I would just map it all out. And this is what my daughter does just naturally. She was just gifted in doing this. And I would have to say it's because I told her to a lot, but that was only because I learned from my own mistakes of not working this way when I was younger. So I just referenced my own artwork on this one, figured out the pose, really roughed it in, and obviously you'll probably be doing this with a pencil. I use Bic pens because I don't worry about erasing or anything like that. But you can see I pretty much captured the pose really easily, right? And I did this, the first time I did this drawing with no reference, it's because I've done this so many times with these poses and piecing things together that in my head I can just kind of think about like, okay, how do I want the torso? Do I want it like at an angle? So when I draw this shape right here, I'm not looking at outlines, I'm looking at the shape. This is the socket where your shoulder goes. Now I've just changed the angle. I'm gonna add the neck in here because maybe I want the head forward, right? Just come like this, and I can draw any person, like pretty much I'll have one arm right here, and I'm seeing through the character where I see where the other arm might be coming out, like either out like this, like the forearm, the back arches right here, we'll add a leg in here, or the pelvic area, and then we'll have one leg like this, one leg coming out. Obviously you get from reference, you'll learn like, okay, well, if I just do a straight arm, it's going to look really stiff. Maybe I should add a little bit of bend to it, and then a little square for the hand. And you've got a nice like walking pose right there. This is the stuff you need to be focused on if you want to draw from imagination. Some people totally focus on only working from reference, and that's totally awesome. That's great. That's their thing. Definitely do the artwork you enjoy doing and want to do. For me, drawing from imagination, and I've kind of come to terms with this, because one thing I will say about drawing super realism, like ultra realism, is you get a lot more attention. If you're in art, to get attention and to get likes and to get views and things like that, like I've always known if I just did realistic celebrity portraits, I mean, I've been doing this channel forever. If I wanted to really grow the channel, I would just do celebrity portraits, realistic ones. The only problem with that is I don't enjoy doing it. I do this channel because I enjoy drawing, and I like to share with you guys the things I like this drawing from imagination. I had so much fun drawing this. It's what I do for fun, right? But if I have to sit there and just render for 10 hours on a realistic celebrity who I don't care about at all, and it's already from a photograph that somebody else took, so it already exists in the world. I'm not bringing in anything new. All I'm doing is a process. And for me, that's not enjoyable. Now, I'm not saying those people aren't having fun doing their stuff, and if they are, that's super awesome for them. But drawing from imagination is something you should do if, one, you want to get into the industry as far as like drawing comics or things like that. You have to be able to do this. So I think somebody who only references, if they want to do comics and stuff, they definitely need to learn this. But if just creating artwork is your goal, and doing artwork that you like to do is your goal, then, and you want to draw from your imagination, then this is the path you take. But honestly, I do both. Like, so I still will draw from reference and do realistic drawings occasionally. It's just not my favorite way to draw. So that's the other thing is, determine what you actually enjoy about art, so you don't have those big lapses in art or in your drawing where you don't draw for a long time, because that's definitely something that happened to me when I was younger. Not so much as I've gotten older. But yeah, I mean, I've come to terms with the fact that this is what I like to draw. I like to draw this stuff. I enjoy it. I can sit down and draw for hours and have a good time and enjoy my life and enjoy the things I'm making. So even though, doing the realistic stuff is enticing, because the general population is gonna, people who are non-artists are definitely gonna gravitate towards that more realistic approach. Now, one thing I find super intriguing, guys, is where I would like to push myself, and there's a few guys that draw from imagination that can achieve this, and I feel like this, for me, is the ultimate goal, would be to draw realistically, like super realism. I wouldn't say super realism, realism from imagination. That would be crazy impressive. Okay, so I know that first part of the video was really talky and didn't do a whole lot of cool drawing in it, but now let's talk about, okay, how do you progress with your drawing from imagination once you've got, those basic shapes down. And I can't, like I said, can't reiterate enough, like those basic shapes, the shoulder here, the chest, the torso, all these simple shapes, right? We'll just draw a body right here real quick. I'm gonna do this super fast just so you can see, like, and these don't always have to be like perfect. That's the thing, is once you get the basic structure down, like how fast you can throw these in, and then and it's important to draw this. Sometimes I even skip this step to this day, and I'm like, just, yeah, I always kick myself, like, why do I do that? You get lazy, or you get I don't know, it's super, like, you want that next step to come too quickly. Okay, so I just drew this. So let's say you start getting good at drawing, you're basic forms for the human body. So what comes next? Like, how do you progress past this? Well, that's when you start grabbing those anatomy books and you do some figure drawing. Anatomy and comic books. The thing about comic books is everything's super exaggerated. So you're going to see every muscle striation. So it depends on the style of art you want to do. If you want to do like basically a skinned human comic book style figure, then comic books are amazing. Tracing comic book characters, learning how the muscles all work, things like that. That's the next layer that goes on top of this. Then you practice folds and clothing, and you just draw that for 100 hours. You draw hands like a million times, right? Hands are super hard, even for me to this day. Hands are super hard, but like I'll just draw a quick hand off this right here. Real simple, right? So his hand's real stiff coming off there, but it looks like a hand, right? You got the basic shape, you got this thing down. Those are the type of things you practice. And then you start practicing making those look more natural, where the bends occur. Like, is he too stiff in the hips? Like adding angle to the hips so that it doesn't look straight up and down. Like I'll try and draw a form like my daughter draws it. She draws, even though I feel like she's amazing, she draws more ovals, and she doesn't quite do the shoulder sometimes. She'll just do stuff like this. You guys can go watch her draw. And so this is probably going to be more where you're at. She draws everything kind of like straight up and down. And she doesn't always get the shapes correct because she doesn't know anatomy yet. So her figure would look more like this. She might do little circles for those. She doesn't quite understand hands yet, so she might just do circles for the hands. So if your figure starts out like this, that's totally fine too. I feel like this is probably where most people are going to be at before they start understanding like joints and how the muscles lay across each other and things. But then I can't show you all that in this video. I can't show you the hundreds of hours you're going to have to spend understanding like where this muscle kind of cuts across the chest. That's like a nuanced thing, how the chest comes across here into the clavicle and all this stuff that's happening through here, where this muscle pulls from. So all from the armpit. Those are all things that you study. And the tricep, how it comes across the bicep over here. These are things that I'm still learning, right? But you can see how I'm just placing muscles right over the top of this form, and I'm just skinning it out, right? So like I'm just adding details to that form that I just had because I have that knowledge of anatomy that I'm still working on to this day. That's something. And some of these are little tricks, like little gimmicks, like this line right here on this first rib cage and how these abs kind of tuck in underneath the ribs. That's something I feel like I picked up from Jim Lee. He always has that really accentuated line that kind of comes across here, and his abs kind of dip down through here. And I don't think I picked that up from an anatomy book. That was a stylistic choice that he does. And I always thought it looked super cool, so I started doing that. This muscle right here that comes in on your hips, how the legs look. One thing I just noticed, this is me learning still, is how long your knee is. This section, your muscles on the top part of your leg, like they don't go right into your calf muscle. There's a big space that happens where your knee and where the joints kind of come together and all the tendons all tie into this area, and then your calves come off of that. And it looks way more realistic, like if you do that. But I make the problem sometimes of extending this all the way down where it touches the top of the calf, and that's not something that happens. So these are all things that you learn as you get better and better at drawing, at referencing, and you start adding those, but you have to learn this first. And again, I skipped this. I wanted to just draw this, and I skipped all of this section. So I think what you should take from this video is draw crappy bubble men for a while. Look at what other artists are doing. Learn structure, learn these things, and do this every time you sit down to do a drawing. Like every time. Even if you want to do a super realistic drawing, if you want to draw from imagination, you have to learn this stuff. Now the cool thing, this is when you can start drawing weird creatures, like all the stuff you see in here, like these guys, is you can start messing around with this stuff. You start to understand these shapes and what they do in three-dimensional space, and you can start piecing really weird things together. Like in my last video, like if I just draw a couple ovals like this, and those are, let's say those are my brow bones on a face, and now I'm gonna draw a shape like this, which similar to that torso, right? That could be like the nose, you know? We'll do a thing, kind of swoopy thing right here, right? And I'm seeing form a lot better now, right? Because I've done all this time of drawing this to working with form and things like that. I can start seeing form, and form is what helps you kind of puzzle piece things together. And I would say that's the biggest thing that I've learned in drawing from imagination is understanding form, how you can like piece things together. So this is like with this shape right here, this is like a weird creature that I'm drawing, and it's all based on these shapes that, you know, I've just gotten used to using, and you can kind of eventually turn it into anything. Obviously I tend to do organic stuff, or I'm doing organic stuff in this video, but I do also do a lot of mechanical, like sci-fi type stuff, that, you know, you can watch any of my sketchbook videos and you can see a ton of that. And that's also from referencing all kinds of machines and things like that. So, but the base of all of it is this, understanding form. So that basically I'm just adding details over the top of my structures. And that's where, you know, once you get a good form down, and honestly the form is the key to everything. It's the foundation to all the cool stuff you're going to be able to do, is, you know, creating that underwire, that form. And a lot of people's approach to that is different. So, you know, figuring that out for yourself through hours and hours of work is, you know, and how you work and how you see things, that's going to give you your style. Well, anyway, yeah, didn't do a crazy drawing in this video. This was an informative video. Sorry. Again, I'm always hesitant to do videos like this because I think they're better served done by like real professionals and things like that. This is just my take on it. But I hope, you know, this answers your question, Oscar, in a very long-winded way. To be honest, you could talk about this forever and still, you know, I mean, obviously entire years of college and art school and stuff are dedicated to just this. So for me to sum it all up in a 30-minute video is pretty tough. But anyway, that's the video, guys. I hope you like it. This is a talky one. Yeah, a little bit different than what I've been doing, but yeah, give me your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think about this type of video. And I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.